Okay. Well, I just clicked the little continue button, so I hope that's right. Anyway, good morning, everybody. Great to see you. We're really, really happy, excited, delighted to be invited to be with you, Tucsonians of CSL. And I didn't mention this when we were chatting before, but I have really, really fond, happy memories of Tucson because my parents, about 25 years ago or so, retired south of Tucson, a little place called Tubac. I'm sure you all know that. So I used to go visit them several times a year when I was performing in the Southwest and just hang out, in that whole area, Tucson, Tubac, Nogales, and explore. And it was really, really fun. So just saying hi to Tucson again because it's been a while. Anyway, I'd love to share some thoughts with you today about what I call the sacred and the silly as pathways to the joy of now, of this moment. Because psychologists and saints and sages and a lot of wise people have told us for many, many centuries actually that happiness lies in the now, in this moment. And I find that a lot of us in the West, in America, tend to forget where that is and how to get there. So the sacred and the silly as pathways to the joy of this moment. And to start, what I'd like to do is go back 800 years, halfway around the world, to ancient Persia, the Sufi mystic poets that were writing then. Most of us know Rumi. If we're in New Thought, we're probably familiar with Rumi. And some of us are a little bit less familiar with his contemporary Hafez, Hafiz. Well, Hafez, I really encourage you, if you haven't experienced Hafez, to get a book of Hafez poetry because, like Rumi, he's deep, he's profound, he's really uplifting, but also frequently whimsical, which I love. So 800 years ago, Hafez said this: what is the difference between your experience of existence and that of a saint? The saint knows that the spiritual pathway is a sublime chess game with God, and that the beloved has just made such a fantastic move that the saint is now tripping over joy, bursting out in laughter, and saying, I surrender. Whereas, my dear, I'm afraid you still think you have 1,000 serious moves. So I love this because I can relate to it so well. About 30 years ago, life got really serious for me, really fast, and I got into a lot of trouble physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, about every way you can be in trauma. And I don't want to go into this, it's a long story, but it was a kind of a mental illness, a dissociative thing, and it was real scary. There was a lot of terror, a lot of despair, because I didn't know what happened. I didn't know how to get out of it. And it lasted a long time. So uh, I was looking at my life and trying to figure out what happened, to get to this low point. Maybe you've had a low point. If you have, you know how it jumpstarts your motivation. So I was trying to figure out what happened and come up with some kind of excuse. So this is what I figured out. This is called just a little soul hanging out in space. Well, I was just a little soul hanging out in space, getting ready to come into the human race. And God came over and he said to me, well, kid, what you want to be? Yeah, it's time for you to go get a life. But you don't have to have no struggle or strife. You can live a life of comfort and ease, worldly pleasures. Do as you please. I can give you parents with lots of money. Southern California, bright and sunny, tall and handsome, a movie star, fancy parties, expensive cars, or maybe an athlete with rhythm and grace. You could do the Olympics, win every race, confidence just oozing from you, and the women, they're gonna love you. Or maybe you'd like to help those in low places, like Peace Corps worker, Mother Teresa. But when it's all said and done, being the Pope is a lot more fun. Or how about a yogi with magical powers? You could levitate for hours and hours and teach everybody to walk on hot coals, sell books and CDs by the truckloads. Well, what do you say, kid? You make the call. You can have any part or you can have it all. You just tell me what you want to be, and I'll give it to you. It's my guarantee, yeah. Well, I just stood there with my mouth open, 'cause that's just what I'd been hoping. But while I was deciding to choose which one, I thought, well, maybe I'll just have me some fun. 'Cause me and God, see, we're pretty tight. And I know God likes a good joke, all right. So I figure I'll pull his leg for a while, see if I can't make the old boy smile. So I say, Father o' mine, all that glory. Tell you the truth, sounds kind of boring. I want a life with some challenge to it. Something I gotta work to get through it. I don't want fame and easy success. I want to be shamed and easily depressed with various physical and mental afflictions. Might as well throw in multiple addictions. I don't need life to be a sweet dream. I want writer's block and low self-esteem, sensitive skin and food allergies, and when I get around girls, make me sneeze. Make me wish that I had more height, give me claustrophobia, stage fright, prone to worry, riddled with doubt, thinking I'll never figure life out. Yeah, that's it, God. That's what I want to have. And then I just shut up so he could laugh. Well, God looked at me with a puzzled brow, shook his head and just said, holy cow. For a minute he stood there pulling his beard, and then he said, kid, you're pretty darn weird. And I know you're just playing the fool, but this time, kid, the joke's on you. And then he grinned at me and he yelled Shazam, and that's my story, and here I am. All right. So thank you. I'm glad you can relate. Will Rogers said, when you find yourself in a hole, the first thing is stop digging. And that's true. We have to have some consciousness, some awareness around what we think about all day because it tends to show up. But the good news about that is if we own that, if we take responsibility for our lives, then there's power there. There's hope there. Because if I'm the problem in my life, I'm also what? The problem in everyone else's life. Yeah. I love that little joke. So there's a great little place in the Gospel of Thomas where it says, if you bring forth that which is inside you, it will save you. Be who you are. Bring forth that which is inside you because it will save you. All right, on that note, let me ask you something. Have you heard of an artist, a painter, by the name of Donald Roller Wilson? Donald Roller Wilson. Have you heard of him? No? Me neither. But I read about him in the Airline magazine. That's where this is from. So Donald Roller Wilson has this amazing niche. It's just phenomenal. All he paints, he just does one thing. He paints animals like dogs, cats, and chimps dressed up in clothes doing bizarre things. Now you can see that these are gothic, these are detailed, these are highly realistic paintings, but they're whimsical. They're all like this. They're just goofy. And he sells them for amazing amounts of money. He's got a celebrity fan list. Anyway, the reason I saved this is not because of any of that. It's because of what he says, this quote. And I just love this quote. It takes all the arrogance out of everything you do, and you know that God is so much bigger than you are. And yet, everything you are and see and do is filled with God. The trees, the asphalt, the people fighting over Aquanet at Walmart. That sounds silly, but silliness is just as important as love, just as important as tragedy. You can make a profound intellectual statement just by basing your efforts on silliness. Well, I agree. Completely. So, as proof, let me ask you this. Have you seen the Robin Williams movie, Patch Adams? Most of us have seen this movie. It's about 20 years old. And some of us have been fortunate enough to spend some time with or see a lecture, a talk by the real Patch Adams. So if you're one of those, if you've actually seen Patch give a talk online or in person, you know that physically he's not like Robin Williams. Patch is really tall. He's about 6'7". He's kind of a beanpole. He's got long gray hair down to mid-thigh, usually dyed blue or purple, and he dresses like a clown. He's a medical doctor who dresses like a clown every day. He's a clown doctor. So Patch has figured out that clowning, playfulness, silliness are the ways that he can best inflict love and compassion on the world, on the people he meets every day. So this is who he is. This is what he does. Patch is almost finished building the first silly hospital in the world, the Gesundheit Institute. It's in West Virginia. You can go look at it online. You can go volunteer there. It's an amazing place. There's no fee for service at Gesundheit. Everything's free. Nobody gets paid anything. But the list of doctors and technicians and nurses and therapists that want to go work at Gesundheit, I've seen lists of these people waiting to go because why? There's no money. Well, because it's fun. Gesundheit is fun. I've been around Patch a lot. We've appeared at some conferences, same conferences. We have mutual friends, so I've been around him quite a bit, and I've seen the wave that he's created in healing and wellness and medicine all over the world. This wave that just keeps getting bigger from one person being silly in a profound way. So it is possible. And one of the things I've heard him say numerous times is he feels like the world is wallowing in misery. And that one of the most radical things you can do in our culture is to have a good day. Well, that's not radical to us in CSL. We teach that, But let me ask you this. We all know that life is serious. And if we forget that life is serious, we can turn on the TV news for 2 minutes and get reminded real fast how serious life is. But are you like me? Have you ever had the particular gift or talent of making life even more serious than it already is? Because I'm an expert at this. I can forget everything in 10 seconds and revert. So I wrote a song about it for myself, and you can see if this applies to you or helps you. This is a song that a lot of therapists tell me they use with their clients, and it's called Writer's Block, the long-term positive and negative effects of worry. I was worried about not writing any songs. No words, no tunes, nothing for way too long. I was worried I'd never write again. Maybe there was no more ink in my pen. And I thought about that, and I began to feel ashamed. I was ashamed that I'd been worried about not writing. No, I've been through droughts before and come out fighting. It seemed like my worry was out of control. I was ashamed about it down to my soul, and then it hit me what I was doing, and I started feeling guilty. I was guilty that I could let myself feel shame over something so insignificant as this writing game. I thought I'd released that stuff long ago, and I felt guilty that I had such a long way to go. And then I realized what I was doing, and I got embarrassed. I was embarrassed that my shame could make me feel guilty. All these negative thought patterns, man, it was silly. If someone could see inside my head, they'd give me a drug and put me to bed. Yeah, I was embarrassed, and that made me mad. I was angry that I could be so immature. I was angry at me, down on myself for sure. And as my anger turned into resentment, I thought about what the long-term effects of that meant, and I realized what I was doing to my body, and I began to feel afraid. I was afraid of what I was doing to myself. All these negative emotions affecting my health. If body and mind are so interconnected, my shame, guilt, worry, and fear were making me infected, and I was afraid that I was becoming depressed. And as I began to sink into depression, the effect on my body and mind became an obsession. The outcome of this could not be in doubt. That gave me something new to worry about. I knew that I might not be around for too long, so I wrote it all down, and I had a new song. And when I thought about that, I was fine again. Oh, pretty silly, but there's a lot of joy in that, see? There's a lot of joy in taking something really limiting and troublesome and restrictive and turning it inside out or upside down so it's not such a big deal anymore. Cutting it down to size, reframing it with humor so that we cut it down to size. Both of those songs were about reframing challenges with humor so that they don't control me anymore. Now I control them. I control my attitude about what's happening. And it's just so much fun to do that. It's a good thing to practice, good thing to learn how to do. Reframe with humor. And worry is the enemy of joy, because if we're worried, are we in this moment? No. Where are we? Well, we're in the past or the future, but we're not here. And the thing is, it's okay to look at the past and the future. Just don't stare. A lot of us get in the habit of staring. It's easy to do. We get a lot of encouragement from our culture to stare at the past and the future, to give our power away. I heard Mel Brooks talking about this on 60 Minutes. He said, Socrates told us it's good to know thyself. He said, but I've learned it's way better to now thyself. Now thyself. He said, we need more people living in the now, living every day like this is our last day, which is why I never have any clean clothes, because who wants to do laundry on the last day? So silliness, playfulness, humor, laughter. These are great ways to stop staring at the past and the future and just come back to now. Every 4-year-old knows this. We knew it when we were 4 years old. We just forgot. Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is where? It's within. And to enter the kingdom of heaven, you must be like a child. So simple. So simple. But we forget because we have a lot of important grown-up stuff to do, here in the U.S. of stress. Or as a friend of mine likes to call it, the excited states of America. We're busy. We're doing a lot of grown-up stuff. So, so we forget. And my bias about this, see, is that all of the reasons that we come to God, whatever you think God is, all of the reasons that we come to spirituality, that we come to God, all these gifts, all these blessings, all the love and the joy and the peace and the hope and the strength and the healing and the connection and the comfort, all of it is always available in every moment. God never takes a break. It's always here, but we forget. So it's okay to practice. It's okay to give yourself permission. See, my bias about this also is that it's a cultural thing. It's part of our cultural USA DNA. Because of this, now you don't have to buy this. This is just my theory. Our country was colonized to a great extent by the Puritans. Remember them? They were so serious that the English kicked them out. H.L. Mencken said a Puritan is someone who's worried that somehow, somewhere, someone might be having a good time. Well, we all have a bit of that Puritan DNA in our cultural makeup because we're Americans. So we inherit that. The good side of that is that we can all work hard. We still outwork every country in the world, industrialized country, first world country. We still work more hours, take less vacation than anybody else. So we're good at working. It's that lightening up part that some of us have trouble with. So if you're like me and you grew up serious, it's okay to practice. So people ask me all the time, they'll say, okay, Greg, all right, say I buy that. I am busy, I am serious, and I have a lot of important grown-up stuff to do. How can I easily have more fun every day? And I'll tell them, well, one of the simplest ways to get started is to just do this comedic technique, which you see among a lot of comedians and comedy duos, of never giving a serious answer to any question that doesn't absolutely require it. Well, if you start paying attention, you realize that almost 95% of the questions you get asked every day don't require a serious answer. Way more than you'd think. So people say, okay, well, so say I buy that. How do I get started doing that? I'll say, okay, well, what's the most common question you get asked all day long? Right. How are you? How you doing? How's it going? And what do we normally say? Normally we say fine. Okay, good. Sometimes we get excited and we'll say fantastic, or great. But that's usually about the extent of it almost all the time. So instead of that, what if somebody asks you how you're doing and you go, well, parts of me are excellent. Or how you doing? Well, I'm still getting away with it. How you doing? Yeah, I feel a lot more like I do now than I did a while ago. Or how you doing? My lawyer said not to answer that. How you doing? You can see me? You know, there's a million things you could say, and I'll give you a tip of where to get some in a minute, but I want to give you an example of how well this can work and how it can change everything. So I was getting on a flight on Southwest. And you know, when you board Southwest Airlines, you board in the galley, in the kitchen. And there's always a flight attendant there to make sure you turn right to go to your seat and not left into the cockpit. They don't want you flying the plane. So I get on board, and sure enough, here's this lovely flight attendant. And she says, hi, how you doing? And I said, I'm hungry. Steak and lobster for lunch? And she thought that was funny, and she laughed, and she said, sure. How do you like your steak? And I said, rare. And she said, well, that's good, because any steak on this airline would be extremely rare. And I cracked up, and I said, well done. And we both had a big laugh, and I went to my seat, and I don't know what this did for her, but it changed my whole day. Instead of getting on this flight and just feeling kind of mundane, everything went up a notch. My whole level went up a notch, and it just made me happy that we had created this fun little interaction out of nothing. And I think it did something for her too, because every time she came down the aisle, she'd look at me and we'd laugh or smile and have a little moment again. So sometimes you'll hit a home run like that. Other times you'll fall flat on your face. But I really encourage you, if you if you have a need for a little more goof off in your day, a little more fun, a little more playfulness in your day, this is a really, really simple way to start. And what happens is once you start doing this, so and this is how you do it. You go get a couple things you want to try out, 2, 3, 4 things, and you keep them in your mental back pocket. And then all day long, you pull them out and you try them and see what works for you and in what situations. And what happens is you find that you're starting to think differently. You're starting to look for opportunities for humor, and they're starting to show up. And pretty soon, you've really trained your brain to have a little bit different focus, which makes your day more fun. I encourage you to try it. And if you need some ideas, on my website, in the menu, the website is gregtamblyn.com. In the menu, there's a link for the humor blog. So you just go to the humor blog and find the blog post that says, "How you doing?" And there's a couple dozen great answers there to get you started, okay? So silliness is a great way to now thyself and come back to the moment. It's just fantastic for how well it works. But there are other ways. You come to this church, so you know about prayer and treatment and meditation. You know about powerful feelings of love and connection. You know about service. You know about gratitude. You know about these things that tend to bring us back into the now. The other thing I want to touch on just for a minute is the experience of the sacred. And I'm using quotes because I'm referring to the mystical connotation of this word sacred. Because when I got into trouble, when I got down in that black hole of despair for 5 years, and I was so scared I would never, ever get out of it, that I would never have a good day again, a normal day. One of the things I did was I went back to reading mystics because I had gotten away from that for a long time. And I rediscovered the descriptions of the mystical experience of joining with God, the mystical experience of communing with God so totally that everything except God disappears. So the little self kind of disappears into the big self, the little soul into the big soul, and everything becomes God. The mystics that have experienced this write about it in remarkably similar language across the traditions and down through the centuries. It doesn't matter. It's always vocabulary like rapture, nirvana, ecstasy, God consciousness, unity consciousness, joy beyond description, ultimate bliss, these kinds of terms. And it really helped me to reread all these accounts and find some new ones, because I felt like if it was possible for humans to live at that level, then it had to be possible for me to get up out of this hole I was in and just have a normal day. So it really kept me going. It really got me inspired. So what I want to do is just have a little quiet moment together with meditation, music, prayer. And I'm going to play a little music. And I'm going to share with you a really, really beautiful piece of prose that I learned actually on a trip to China, of all places. And it's a beautiful little prayer. I think of it as a prayer. So I invite you to just relax for a couple of minutes, sit back in your chair, close your eyes if you want to, and listen to the music, take these words in, and see if we can just together maybe go down that path a little ways of the mystical experience of of communing with the infinite. Let all things be healthy. Let all things be peaceful. Be sure to count your blessings at least once a day. Forgive those who have hurt you and those who have offended you. But forgive yourself for what you have done and for that which you have failed to do. That which is done, there is no need to speak of. That which is past, there is no need to blame. Have self-control, self-knowledge, self-respect, and the courage to dare. Be tranquil. The light of intelligence will shine. And strive to make a spot where you stand beautiful. Then the beauty and harmony will follow you in all your days and in all your ways on this journey we call life. All right. Let's take a nice big breath, or a couple or three, and bring our attention back to the room and back to the screen. And that's almost all I have. I have one more song I'd like to share with you, but I'm going to turn this over. Is it to David? I'm not sure exactly if it's David who I